So these are difficult times for so many Americans who are struggling economically, who've lost faith in the promise of America, worry about the survival of our democracy. It's led me to reflect on the meaning of citizenship and patriotism, particularly in this 250th year of our country's founding. So let's start with where you are. Why run for the U.S. Senate? This surely means turning your life upside down, and specifically, why now?
I think in part, frankly, because we are in a powerful moment. We are celebrating our 250th anniversary. In the big scheme of, time horizons of countries and empires, it's short. But what we have accomplished in the span of 250 years has been amazing. We ushered in the era of democracies. We've elevated humanity because of our contributing our power, not for self-service, but for the good of the American people, but also the greater good. Our technology and innovation, our ability to evangelize and advocate for democracy has given humanity a chance to chart their own course, set their own destiny. It's the same reason that I joined the military. Even at the age of finishing up university and get commissioned as an officer, I recognized that there's something absolutely unique and special about this country, and that it drew myself and my brothers to serve. My twin brother and I made a career out of military service. My career spanned more than 21 and a half years in combat, Purple Heart recipient as a diplomat in embassies in Kiev, Ukraine, Moscow, Russia, in the Pentagon, and ultimately in the White House on the National Security Council, contributing to securing America and promoting this vision of the United States as well as a different course for humanity. I was forced out of the military after reporting corruption at the presidential level and
we'll get to that.
Yeah, I remember writing this article in Washington Post explaining that I was ending that chapter of my life, but recommitting to public service. And what I've been doing for the past several years is I ended up getting a doctorate and published a couple of books, but lecturing and teaching. But I also helped get veterans elected around the country because veterans shared my values, shared my belief in the greatness of this country, and moved to Florida on the theory that I could do that second chapter here, but outside of the spotlight of being the guy. And it turns out that I was wrong. My wife wanted to get away from politics, so we moved to Florida, and this is the best way I think I could contribute to the next 250 by reviving and revitalizing the promise of America and a more perfect union and the American dream, and contributing as an elected representing 23 million people here in the great state of Florida, and trying to do something to take our country, put it back on track, end corruption, make life more affordable, cutting costs, and delivering in the same way that I've done in my adult life.
So the why now question, there are obviously a lot of personal reasons for it, but I'm curious about whether, the why now is about this particular urgent moment. And we're going to get at some of those issues, but just broadly speaking, what is the urgency of this moment in your view?
I think we are in one of the most challenging, and I say this as a historian. We had a revolution, we had a civil war, we've had 2 world wars. We are in one of the most challenging moments in our nation's history because there is such a sharp divide in our politics, because the forces of corruption, the forces of the elites is really crushing the vast majority of the population. I have an opponent, Ashley Moody, who was appointed into her role because she authorized the transfer of $10 million out of a child welfare fund to use for political ads, and her payback was an appointment to the Senate. I have an opponent who's traded more than $2 million in stocks based on insider information. That is corruption. Should be illegal. People should go to jail for that kind of stuff. I have an opponent that sits on the Health Services Committee and trades big pharma stock. She's voted to give a free pass to this administration in this absurd obscene, wasteful, thoughtless war with Iran 9 times without any accountability.
Right.
These are the things that I'm fighting against, to make sure that we take the state and the country in a different direction, so that my daughter, who's 15, finishing up 9th grade, could choose to live here next to dad in the great state of Florida, because she has all the job opportunities, that it's an affordable place to live, and that she has the rights and freedoms that at least her mother enjoyed. And that's not where we're headed. That my dad, who's 94, retired after 20 years of service as a civil servant in New York, is here. He just turned 94 a couple of days ago, that he could live in the state of Florida and afford to live here. I'm paying half of his rent. So that's the kind of stuff I'm fighting for. It's very practical and pragmatic, as well as the lofty vision of where we should be taking this country.
Right. So I've got some more sort of big picture questions for you. The second one, many know you as the whistleblower of Trump's call with President Zelensky that led to the first impeachment. What did you learn from that experience that influences your thinking now? And what does it say about your notion of duty?
I learned that there are, you could do the right thing and still suffer consequences. You could do the moral and ethical thing. I hate using these words because they're about myself, but the selfless thing oriented on the public good, on national security, and that there are consequences, real consequences to these kinds of decisions, but that you could live with these consequences. You could live with yourself. You could merge out of that, with a crystal clarity about the things that are important. Having served this country in combat, having to serve this country in difficult, embassies like Russia, I have a deep perspective on what really matters and what is less important. My own personal ambitions and career, in the big scheme of things, are far less important than what I've committed to and what I've sworn an oath to, which is support and defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. So I learned that there are consequences, but that these are completely manageable, and something that I could live with trading away a career, even a 21-year career that I was very proud of, in order to deliver on the things that really matter.
You learned about your own resilience also in the face of those consequences.
Yep. And I learned that some fights are worth fighting. It's getting into the good trouble, into the necessary trouble. People sometimes forget that second part. And that, regardless, these are fights worth having. And this fight in Florida for the Senate seat is absolutely worth having, even though it puts my family back into the crosshairs and encourages, significant hardship. It is absolutely a fight worth having, because it's about the future of the state. It's about the future of my daughter and my dad, but it's about the future of the state and the future of this country. And I could do something about this. I could send a career corrupt politician packing and create room that helps achieve a more perfect union, with expanded healthcare, with higher quality education, with a more affordable lifestyle. If we could get away from career politicians delivering for power,
right,
then we could create room for good ideas that deliver for people.